Happy Friday. I had a poor connection earlier, now I'm back. Processed and packaged food tend to have higher levels of toxic chemicals than whole foods. These foods may contain preservatives and other additives that could be harmful to your health. Plus, processing foods increases risk of contamination of heavy metals or petroleum-based ingredients or compounds from machines or lubricants. Lastly, many of these food travel for long distance in plastic packaging. Everything from hot trucks in transit to improper food storage at grocery store can increase these plastic chemicals to leach into your food. That's why we recommend people eat as many locally sourced whole foods as possible. While shopping for produce locally has become increasingly common, shopping for meat still has a long way to go. Sourcing local meat isn't a second nature for humans today as it was for our ancestors. That's why we're so glad today to be chatting on IG Live with Emily Niswanger. Emily is an integrative and functional nutrition dietitian from Minnesota. So during this live, we're going to discuss how shopping locally helps with sustainability, what to look for when trying to buy different type of meat locally, and some tips for meal prepping. So I saw. Hello, hi Emily.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having an interest in this topic. It's an important one.
And we actually have never talked about shopping for meat, and then it is hard because there are a lot of people, you get your CSA like veggie box, but you don't really think about meat.
Yeah. We're very fortunate in Minnesota that we actually have a couple meat CSA
Oh, wow.
shares to choose from here. But I could see it being, it's spreading rapidly state to state, and I'm sure there are other states doing it already, and we can discuss how people can find those.
Love it. Before we start, tell us a little bit about your background, like how you became a functional nutrition dietitian.
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm. That's kind of a little bit where my connection to farming comes from. A conventional farm. My parents didn't farm organic or anything like that. The things that I talk about mostly today. But the contrast has been a very important part of my education and understanding both sides of the farming industry. But started with my work in cardiac ICU after working in an intensive care unit with heart attack patients and open heart surgery patients. I just needed to get out and work more on the preventative side and learn more about helping. I just really wanted to work with people who were like, I want to prevent this. I know this runs in my family, or, I'm watching my other family members go through it, and I don't want to face this, or, they're starting to feel the consequences of maybe some lifestyle choices, and they want to prevent it from going any further. So education is my passion. So moving into functional medicine allowed me to really embrace that. And I've had teaching opportunities come out from that, being able to speak at different conferences. I recently spoke to a group of attorneys in Nashville, which was so fun because usually we think health conference, but this group was specifically wanting to focus in on how can attorneys who live high stress lives focus on self-care and take care of themselves nutritionally. So, and then Anywhere Nutrition kind of just evolved from, I really wanted to help people when I used to work with them one-on-one. It's very difficult to meal plan for people when you only have, 30 to 60 minutes to work together. So I was like, there's really nothing out there I would like to refer my patients to. And so I created it. And that's what my Anywhere Nutrition meal plan membership is all about.
I love it. We're gonna get into it.
Yeah.
You recently had a quote on your Instagram live, in Instagram from Michael Pollan, like, don't eat anything that your grandmother doesn't recognize as food. Why do you feel that way? Tell us about that.
He's such a wise man. If people haven't seen his documentaries, I highly recommend it. It's more like I see people complicate nutrition so much. Like we need to everyone thinks they need a label for the way that they eat. They need to buy special products or special supplements when in reality, I was very fortunate to have a grandmother who lived to 99. Her mind was completely intact and functioning till the day she passed away. And I'm just, I often think about how simple her life was, making a simple homemade loaf of, bread, just eating very simple meals, nothing fancy, whole foods based. She snacked on fruits and vegetables. She would bake cakes, but she would make them from scratch. We would enjoy a slice of it like it was the last time we were going to have it with her every time we did. And we just moved on. And I just think we really complicate health so much. And when I say we in the industry, obviously the health industry, the fitness industry is always constantly marketing at people who are trying to get healthy. And I think specifically the product, like everyone will recognize this, but athletic greens, like this very expensive. I haven't researched them. I don't think I'm not necessarily labeling them good or bad, but I think it's $100 a month for this powdered supplement. That's a lot of money. And the marketing campaign behind it is just mind blowing to me. And when in reality, it's just cook more at home with, whole foods, simple spices, eat till you're satisfied and move on.
I love it.
That's my approach.
I love it. You're also a big advocate for shopping locally and seasonally. So how is this more sustainable way to live?
Yeah, it's seasonal is not something that I really recognized until I was an adult. I really didn't realize that like celery has a season and apples have a season. So apples may be your favorite fruit, but buying an apple in like February, March at the grocery store, it's old. It doesn't necessarily make it bad, but the longer produce sits, you're losing the valuable nutrition that is in it. So I'm not saying don't eat apples, but hey, come this fall, especially in Minnesota, like that is when that's when we're baking apple pie and making applesauce. And there's a reason why we do that in the fall, because that's when they're in season. And right now is berry season. They taste incredible. The flavor is, if you taste a berry in December, that's imported from Mexico versus right now, one from, the US eating in Minnesota. Oh my gosh, it's just a completely different piece of fruit. So it's going to taste better. It has more nutrition in it. Vitamin C is lost the moment your produce is picked. Like the moment the apple comes off the tree, the moment the berries are picked, put in a container. So like the clock is ticking from the time it leaves this farm and gets to your grocery store. You finally buy it, you put it in your fridge, and then you finally eat it. So I find that when people source things locally, especially if we can really get connected between a CSA, which is community supported agriculture, purchasing a share directly from a farmer, that is often delivered to your neighborhood, even possibly right to your main grocery store. That produce is usually picked that morning because it can't be picked weeks in advance or even days in advance. It'll wilt. And then of course farmers markets. Getting people to think about a farmers market not just as some Saturday morning festival, but it's quite literally a grocery store. And if you really are strategic about it, Minnesota has amazing farmers markets. They're open 365 days a year. You could buy meat, eggs, beans, cheese, vegetables. I mean, seeds. It's incredible the way that they have transformed them into a literal grocery store where everyone kind of plays a part in creating it.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think we have it here in the Bay Area in California. Like all day, we have farmers market like twice a week.
Okay, well, that's still something. That's still something. Yeah,
I would love to have it every day.
Yeah, well, I'm in Minneapolis, so obviously a major city. But yeah, we have a market that's open every single day, and then others that are open every single weekend all year round. So it's quite amazing.
Amazing. So besides like shopping locally, what are some benefits for eating at home versus eating out?
Oh my gosh. So for the money, I love eating out. We're huge foodies. I love trying new restaurants. Again, we live in Minneapolis. We have incredible restaurants, highly awarded chefs in the area, and it's so fun to eat out. But the last couple of years, I've never paid so much for a restaurant meal in my life. The last couple of years, so it's really it's shocking how much. I don't want to say money wasted, but if it becomes a habit as like a last minute thing, even I'm trying to think of something where we ate recently and it was very simple food, not a sit down restaurant. And it was just, wow, like, $40-50 for two people to eat together, maybe even without a beverage. So when you think about that type of money and what you can transform that into with making a few meals for a week, cooking at home really stretches your dollar. Yeah. And of course, I run a meal plan membership, so I'm talking about it all the time. But if you Google ways to save money on groceries right now, every article starts with make a plan. Start with a plan, because if you go wishful shopping and just, I really should be eating more spinach and I could probably snack on celery and peanut butter. Apples sound good, but you come home and you don't have any sort of plan for them. So much of it is going to go to waste, unfortunately. If we don't have a plan, we just forget about it in the bottom drawer of the fridge. So I also don't want to waste it. So yeah, so the biggest thing of cooking at home is the money you're going to save. And then you really get to focusing on the quality of the ingredients that you're buying. That's the other thing we miss from choosing certain restaurants. Like Panera has done a very good job marketing itself as like a healthy restaurant chain, but still people really have no idea where's their chicken from. They label it all natural. That was a big campaign of theirs 4 or 5 years ago. There's no definition of natural. It sounds great, but it doesn't mean anything. So, it's people are like, I want to eat out, and they feel guilty about it. And Panera has done a good job of pulling people in to think that, they should be spending more money on these certain types of foods. And maybe they are doing a good job. I'm just saying, most people don't really know. We don't know where the meat is coming from. We don't know where the produce is coming from. Is it organic? Is it not organic? These are important things if you're eating out on a regular basis, to be thinking about what are you putting in your body to fuel it, to live healthy.
Totally agree. I also want to echo on the cost. Literally, yes, going out right now for a meal for two, it's easily like more than $50. My CSA box for the entire week of veggies, sometimes it can last for more than a week, it's $40.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, so the comparisons, like, one meal versus almost like a whole week or a week more supply of veggies.
Yes.
The difference is huge.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time when they join my membership, this isn't meant to be a rigid diet. You're not on the Whole30. It's just to help you to cook more at home with simple recipes that taste good and they don't have a million ingredients. And maybe you still eat out on Friday night, and eating pizza or ordering in pizza is your family thing that you do. There is nothing wrong with that if it fits your budget, but it's the constantly, no one decided what to eat. There's nothing here to eat. Let's order in, especially if you're going to have it delivered, you have to think about the tip and the tax that's put on it. And it is easily, again, like $40, $50, $60. It really adds up.
Yeah. Now going back to the meat, you had an amazing post about shopping for meat locally. So we're gonna run through some topics and questions, like what should you look for, when shopping for beef?
Yeah. So first a couple resources to start. Like, so in Minnesota, we have a website called Minnesota Grown or mngrown.org or something like that. I have helped people in my membership figure this out in their area, so I know it works pretty much every single time. But if you type in your state and then grown into Google, it pulls this up for basically every single state. So if I typed in Louisiana grown or, you know, Maine grown, so it's the same in every single state, and you'll find pretty much a directory to farmers markets, CSAs, and just like a listing of farms themselves. So it might go by a little bit of a different name, but I've always found that those two keywords together in a Google search will bring up some type of directory so that you can find someone near you. The cool thing is like I live like heart of Minneapolis. I live by the airport. You wouldn't think that I would be able to get fresh organic produce or locally raised meat without having to drive way out to the city, to the boonies on some gravel road to buy farmer from some guy I don't even know. But I don't have to, because the system has been set up to bring all of those resources usually to the city, because they know that's where the people are. Super fun. I highly recommend is, you know, when you narrow down your search of your farm to buy from, ask them if you can come and visit. Most people will say yes. If they say no, you might kind of question why they wouldn't want you to come and visit. But most farmers, they're just dying to connect with the consumers, break down walls, break down barriers, and really break down stereotypes of what, like, how meat is raised in this country. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. You know, you can support this route that's better for the planet. So I would start with that type of a search in whatever state you live in. And then you can start by narrowing it down to the type of protein you're looking for. Again, whether it's chicken, it's beef, it's pork, it's turkey. And so once you find the farms you're looking for, the things you would want to look for specifically, and again, you can look for this if you're searching a grocery store as well. For beef, we're looking for grass-fed beef. Okay, those are your main keywords. You don't necessarily want it to say just like grass finished. That would mean that it was raised on grains and then put out to pasture at the end. One thing I would really recommend when you try something that's, if you've only consumed grain-fed beef most of your life, which was me, that's the farm I grew up on, is the taste might not appeal to you right away. So I would try different brands, different farmers to find one that we really love. We have a farmer that we actually know from growing up, who transitioned to growing grass-fed beef, and it's amazing. It's so good, and it saves me so much money buying directly from them. So those are your keywords you're looking for when it comes to beef, and you're going to get more nutrition with that. You're also doing the planet a big service by helping to regenerate the land. It's quite amazing. I have a bison farmer I also purchased from, and he is just a soil health nerd, and I love talking to him about the soil changes that we see when animals are grazing it. It's very important, very important. So that's what I would say about beef specifically.
What about chicken?
So chicken, you're looking for pasture raised, so not cage-free. Same thing goes for eggs. You basically can use both of these the same. So cage-free would mean just in a barn, but not in individual cages. Okay, so they're free roaming within a building. What's the comment? So we got cage-free. We're looking for pasture-raised. Oh, free range is the other one. Free range is basically they're in a building. The door is left open, but they may never go out. So nice that there is an area for them to go out, but we really want chickens that are, they could be utilizing something, you know, small farm, they call them chicken tractors, which is basically kind of like a cage around them to protect them, but they're on grasses, and that shelter basically gets moved around every single day onto fresh grasses. because predators are a really important thing to think about. Not every farm can just let chickens roam everywhere. And so I would say pasture raised is what you're looking for. Hormones can't be used in chicken production. So if you see like no hormone, you will see this. It's on all the chicken packages at the grocery store, like no hormones added. Doesn't mean anything. Like cool that they put it on the package, but it doesn't mean anything because it's not legal to be used in either arena, organic or not. So that doesn't really matter too much. And then I would ask, so if you're buying directly from a farmer or if you're buying from a, someone at your grocery store, you go on their website and, find out what they're feeding the chickens. So is it they need supplemental grain. That's just how chickens work. And you would want to find out what it is. Farmer uses what's called transitional grains. So it's a farmer who is raising grains for chickens that's not certified organic yet, but isn't using conventional practices. So it's not sprayed, but they just either, certification is extremely expensive. So they just haven't been certified, but they're following all the protocols for organic. And I think that's a great option and a great way for farmers to save money on grains for feeding their chickens. So I would ask what they're using.
That makes a lot of sense. And then we should look for the same thing for eggs.
Yes.
Eggs.
Yes. Yep. Pasture raised eggs. Color doesn't really matter. People sometimes look like, oh, brown eggs, like immediately healthier. That does not say anything about how the chickens were raised. The other thing is the color of the yolk. That used to be a great indicator, like, wow, look at these bright orange yolks. This must be so much better for me, which is true to a degree, but farmers can add either coloring or nutrients to their grains so that the eggs come out brighter orange. So kind of like, and they might not be pasture raised. So you're really looking for the pasture raised eggs is what you really want. I would say also don't spend more money on omega-3 rich eggs. They're just feeding a supplement to the chickens so that the eggs come out higher in omega-3s. And in my opinion, that's not a natural source of omegas. I don't need the chickens to be eating omegas for me to get omegas. We want to get omegas from the natural sources of them. And so, it's kind of like they're fortifying the chickens or something. It's a little bit different. So that's what I would say about the egg piece.
Love it. Many people are like unaware that, buying meat can also be sustainable. And then, you can even use bones for like bone broth. Tell us like some of these benefits.
Yeah, it's funny. People will see what I do maybe on social media and assume I've been, confident in the kitchen and cooking this way forever. But I'm trying to remember if it was like 2014 or 2015. It was literally my New Year's resolution to learn how to cook a whole chicken. I was so intimidated by it. But it's something I've always wanted to do. And so I was like, I'm going to figure this thing out. So I remember buying this whole chicken. It was, super reasonably priced, just not quite sure what to do with it. I think I roasted it the first time and cooked it way too long. So it wasn't very good that way. And then the second time I put it in the slow cooker and fell in love with it. And that's my go-to way of making a whole chicken now. And it's so awesome because you just set it and forget it. You don't really have to, find a good spice mix that you like, put your chicken in the slow cooker, add your spices. You don't even have to add water, cover it up. And then once it's done cooking, you just piece it apart. I leave the bones and the skin in there. And then I make what you just mentioned, the bone broth. And then I usually freeze it if it's not typical soup season. Like today would be way too hot to enjoy a bowl of soup for me. So I would just freeze it for later. But yeah, we're getting so much nutrition from the marrow and the bones, which is why it's really important if you're going to be cooking a whole chicken for that reason to make sure you are buying an organic chicken, because it does matter, what they were given and eating and the environment that they were in and what they were exposed to, because that's going to transfer into your bone broth. And then I hold on to veggie scraps. You can use fresh carrots and celery and onions if you want, but every time I cut up an onion, I cut up a carrot, I cut up celery, pretty much anything else. I have a gallon Ziploc bag that I've had for like 6 years, and every single time I chop something up, I just put the scraps in the bag, and then when I make bone broth and fill up my crock pot, I just pour in all those scraps of the onion peels and the butt of the onions and the butts of the carrots and the parts of the celery that, you know, the center, I don't know if it has a special name, but the center of the celery that isn't just crunchy, but it has nutrients in it. And so I put that in there, and it just makes such a flavorful broth. And it's just a great way to, you know, eat what we would call like nose to tail, like using the full thing instead of always just purchasing chicken breast and that being the only thing we know how to cook with when it comes to chicken.
And that saves a lot of money because you're saving the staff and you're freezing it. And then also it's like really nutritious.
Bone broth, good quality bone broth is ridiculously expensive. So you're basically getting it for free when you do it this way in your slow cooker. It's very simple. I have a series of videos on my Instagram page, but it would be back quite a ways if someone wants to dig and find it. I did like a step-by-step, like 3-day tutorial of how I do it.
Wow. So is this why like a meal prep is like super important to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think where meal prep really came in handy was especially when I was working my clinical job, and I would leave home at 7 a.m. and not get home until 5:30, 6 o'clock. My husband doesn't love to cook, so I wasn't in one of those relationships where I came home and he took care of it. So it was like, okay, if I want to be able to practice what I preach, you know, talking about food all day long and eating healthy and, you know, mindfulness being a piece of it, it's like, how can I be more prepared and just make this so much easier? And so then I just started playing around with recipes that worked really well to be reheated the next day. And so many people are afraid of leftovers or have this stigma, like they don't want to eat leftovers. But in reality, so much of what we eat at coffee shops, the frozen section of the grocery store, like, what do you think that enchilada is that's microwavable, or that lasagna slice that's microwavable? It's a meal prepped leftover food that has just been prepackaged for you. You know, at coffee shops, the sandwich is already made, the eggs have been cooked. They're just doing a quick microwave of it at Starbucks. They're not making that I know of, at least recently. They're not making you fresh eggs. And so why can't we transfer those things that we love to our home cooking situation? And so that's kind of where meal prep came from. And that's how we've been at it for like a decade now, learning, you know, what actually tastes good 3 days later. There's a lot of things like chili or lasagna. The flavor gets better the longer it sits. Actually, like chili and lasagna, they taste good day 1, but they taste really good days 2 and 3 because the noodles soak up the flavor and the meat picks up the spices. I don't think people realize that as much. It's like how much more flavor can come out of something days later.
Oh my God.
So
you're making me hungry right now.
I know.
Are these information like all of them in your grocery store, grocery course? Because I know you have a wait list for your grocery course.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways people can work with me. The course isn't out yet. So mostly right now is through the membership. So the membership is how, and I'm doing a brand new thing right now around meal prep, as I have a challenge starting next Thursday, and we'll go for 5 weeks. And I have recorded tutorials on how to meal prep, kind of like my foundational meal prep recipes. I love to meal prep smoothies, like make a big batch of them and then they're ready in my refrigerator to go. And so many people are like, how could you possibly do that? And it could taste good 3 days later. I'm like, I will show you how to do it. It is the best. It's so simple. So I'm actually doing that inside the membership. Registration's open right now. So we start next Thursday for that. And then after the challenge is over and you've kind of gotten down these core principles, you've created a healthy routine around meal prep, then I continue to send you out a brand new menu every single week, and then you can pick and choose what you want to prep. So within that group, I go live every single Monday, and people can submit questions, and a lot of it is label reading we do together. People, how do I choose between these, 3 different kinds of flavored water? And like, how do I choose a yogurt? What's the difference? What are we looking for? So we do a lot of breaking down labels and marketing terms and ingredient lists, and trying to decide, help people learn, figure out what to buy. It's the grocery store is just it's really out of control with all the stuff that we have to weed through. I mean, the amount of different brands of yogurts that are available, it's ridiculous. What are these? So anyway, I do a lot of that in the membership. And then the grocery course has been, I filmed it in a grocery store, and I went aisle by aisle, and I explained to people how we're standing in front of the milk. How do we choose the right brand of milk, and what are we looking for on the label, and what's just marketing and what actually is, is real. And then we go down the aisles of looking at oils, and we look at canned goods and condiments and meat. I actually interviewed a farmer as a part of the course as well, and he goes even in more of the detail for buying meat locally, and some of like trickery things, kind of with like, how does Costco sell grass-fed meat so ridiculously cheap? And he's got some information about stuff like that. And so, there's always a trade-off. If something seems way too good to be true, there's probably a good reason for it. So yes, the wait list is it's in my Instagram bio on my link there. And so more information coming out about that after this membership launch is complete. I don't have a release date for the course yet, but it's something I am really excited about.
That is super exciting. Once people learn it and then also go aisle by aisle, that's going to be so educational, so informational.
Yeah, it's like what I'm really trying to do. Like, I don't want to scare people. I really want to empower people. Like, you work really hard for your money. The last thing I want you to do is go to the grocery store, spend extra money on something that just marketed you really, really well. Like, think of these athletic greens, $100 a month for dried vegetable powder. I mean, they've done a really good job marketing it. But we need to really like simplify what our body really needs to be fueled, and think about what we're passing down to future generations, to our children, and so on. It's really important.
Absolutely. Tell us, I know we're a little bit over, but this is so interesting. I know you also have a snack guide and a product guide. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of focusing on, if you're going to snack, to try to create what I would call a macronutrient balanced snack. I mean, I advocate first for very satisfying meals. I think that most people can get by with 3 meals if they're really eating enough, like not restricting and getting in their balance of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Because I think it's, from a physiological standpoint, our body wants a break in between meals to digest. So, but if we do need extra snacks, say there's a medical reason you can't eat, 3 normal sized meals, or you need, you have very high protein, carb, or fat needs, and you need to have extra snacks in between your meals to get them in. Or sometimes people just want a snack. I get it. We're trying to pair together a protein and fat, or protein and a carb, or carb and fat, to make something called a macronutrient balanced snack. And the reason for that is, if you have ever gone and grabbed like a bag of almonds out of your pantry to snack on, because maybe that's a healthy choice you have around, what do we tend to do? We're like going at them until like, whoa, like we probably just like way overdid it on almonds. And now we feel kind of like possibly yucky, because it's a lot of fat to digest at one time, not in a bad way, but it was just a big dose. And would it have been better to maybe pair almonds with blueberries, so that you're getting 2 different textures? You're not going to overdo it on one or the other. you're getting in some extra fiber and nutrition through the blueberries, having them together with the almonds. And then again, people tend to eat more mindfully when they pair things together that way than just snacking on, cubed cheese by itself. But if you took, and then you overdo it. But if you were to pair together, cheese with some olives,
Oh my God.
you might, I know, salty goodness. You might find that you eat a more balanced portion of each of them. And again, if you're finding yourself really overeating when it comes to snacks, like it's probably a sign that your last meal wasn't big enough, or it's time to prepare your next meal instead of snacking your way through it.
Amazing. I feel like everybody needs to see these guides, and that everybody needs to sign up for the grocery course and also the meal prep course. This is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel very lucky. It's been really fun to create.
We're going to have to make sure to promote your grocery course once it's out.
Thank you. Yeah, I would absolutely appreciate that. I think your audience overlaps really well. So
thank you so much for sharing today, and then all these great tips. It's absolutely amazing. And we have a really good turnout. I keep seeing people joining and staying. So thank you so much.
Yes, I'm so glad people are interested in this topic of simplifying health and sourcing locally. It's very important.
Super practical tips too.
I'm glad.
If it's so practical.
Well, again, I have worked with people in improving their health for a very long time. And for the majority of people, we are just way overcomplicating. We're overcomplicating it. And it doesn't need to be that, complex. We just really need to simplify and get back to the flavors of natural foods and spices and simple things like that.
Delicious.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Emily.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.